So, you're here to learn a little bit more about GP Power Tools and how it can simplify administrating your system. My name's David Musgrave. I'm the Managing Director of Winthrop Development Consultants. Been recognised as an MVP, as a GPUG All-Star, and as of 2 days ago, a GPUG All-Star under the new annual system, which is a great honour. I've been in the GP world since 1994. We sort of looked at version 1 but got involved seriously with version 2. I did spend almost 14 years with Microsoft. I do have my soul back now that I left. I live in I live in Perth, which is in Western Australia. So, I'll give you a little bit of history about GP Power Tools. It was originally known as the support debugging tool, and it was a pet project of mine that I wrote while I was at Microsoft. When I left Microsoft, I lobbied to get the rights to it, and with Pam Michalek's help, we were able to get the rights to Power Tool, to support debugging tool, rebranded it as Power Tools, and re-released it. It's available from GP 2010 onwards, all the way through to current release. I released 18.5 on the day that 18.5 was released by Microsoft. The latest build is only from GP 2015 onwards. So the last 7 builds of GP, you can have the very latest Power Tools code. I'm going to be bringing that down to 5. 7 is too many versions to keep updating. So it will be, next version will be from 18.0 onwards. The product is broken down into 3 modules: Administrator Tools, Developer Tools, and Database Tools. And we also have the System Features module, which contains features that were used by all 3 of the modules. Don't necessarily need to read this because I'll be demonstrating it, but this is a quick summary of what Administrator Tools does. It's all of the things that make GP easier to administer and use from the user's perspective, and you'll see some of those in action. Developer Tools is all of the scripting and triggering capabilities, and if you come to my next session, this is the sort of tools that can be used to replace VBA. The functionality available is amazing, and I have a whole page of free samples you can install. The database tools are a suite of tools designed to make using, or for your DBA to make life a lot easier for them. The primary one is the database validation tool, and that tool, which I'll be demonstrating for you, allows you to make sure that everything that's in GP is actually matched in SQL. So it can recreate users when you move servers. It can check that your tables are all in the correct format before you upgrade. And remove any junk from the utilities tables so that your upgrade is smooth. System features give you the ability to capture logs. So most of you know about the DEX-SQL log, but this allows you to capture 5 levels of logs with a single click to turn it on, a single click to turn it off. It allows you to capture all of the open windows with a single click. You can send emails from inside GP as well, so this email engine is used by GP Power Tools to allow it to send emails, but you can also use that as a way of sending support requests to your whoever your database administrator or GP Power Tools, GP administrator is. So features within GP Power Tools are broken up into standard and advanced features, which are basically user and administrator features. Anything that's standard is safe for a general user to be able to do, and you would actually give them access to the user security role for that. Anything that's advanced is something that could potentially see or change data, and therefore it's protected by a number of levels. One is application level security. It will also be behind a system password if you're using that, or you have the option of instead of using the system password, you can use a GP Power Tools administrator password. And finally, you need to have permissions at the SQL level. So this can mean if you want to do this as a standard user, you would need to give that standard user sysadmin rights, and you can do that at the SQL level without any risk of that being, or security risk, because standard users have encrypted passwords, which means that they cannot use that login anywhere other than GP. So by marking them sysadmin, it just means that they will have the rights to be able to write scripts and be able to do things like dropping and recreating tables if they need to. So as far as the installation goes, it's got to be installed on every machine that has GP. Classic one is, the automatic logout feature isn't working. We installed it on the server, but it's, so I say, are they running on a machine that has GP Power Tools installed? And they go, no. It's like, well, how do you expect it to work if it's not there? So it needs to be installed everywhere. All the data is stored in SQL tables. It's actually all in the system database. You can, or you should also specify a shared location, which is where all of the logs and any other files that Power Tools generates get stored. By putting that in a central location, it means as an administrator, you don't have to visit a workstation to capture the logs. You can just see where they go to this shared location, and you'll see here the logs that so-and-so created. So I mentioned security roles are there. There's a little bit of setup if you want to enable the SQL profiling functionality, which is the fifth type of log. And the macro logging functionality just needs to be turned on. So by default, 3 logs are turned on. If you want the other 2, you just need to enable them. So that's pretty well it for slides. I will come back to here. And GP Power Tools logged me out. So basically, built into GP Power Tools is a number of features. One of them is if you leave it sitting at a login window for too long, it will log it out so that the session is no longer running. The reason that's important is if I'm sitting at one of those login windows, I won't show in the activity table because I'm not logged in yet, but the dynamics.exe is running, and as an administrator, I am no longer able to do any updates to the system. So just looking at the activity table is not enough. So Power Tools will say, hey, I'm going to log you out. So let me go through some situations where you'll have, this is sort of going to run with, here's a problem and how do I solve it? So one of the issues that you're likely to come across while you're, beers are on him, while you've got some sort of problem, the support people are going to say to you, capture logs. That's the first thing they want to say to you. So what I'm going to do is, let's say I've got some sort of problem and I know it occurs when I hit save on a customer. So if I want to turn the logging on, and what I might do, you don't have to open this window, but I'll open it so you can see. The red bars on the side show you the 5 different logs. So if I need to capture my logs, I can just come in here on any window to the tools menu, say start logging, do my event, stop logging. Option here to send emails. So there's the email. It's giving me the names of the logs it just captured and where they've been saved in the shared folder, but it's also attaching them as, into the zip file. And I've got the macro recording, which is the user's actions. I've got the dexterity script log, which is all of the scripts that have been run inside dexterity with their parameters. I've got the dexterity script profile, which is all of those scripts, how many times each script's been executed and how long each one took. That profile is awesome for solving issues with performance because it can tell you exactly which script is actually taking the longest and you can track down performance issues. The SQL, Dex SQL log, which is the one you usually know, but I don't have all the stuff beforehand, I don't have all the stuff afterwards, and it only captured this user. If I was on a terminal server, I haven't changed the dex.ini setting, it has captured just this session's worth of SQL data. And that's the communication between SQL and dexterity. Then, with the SQL profile trace, I've now actually got, well, this stored script run, now I can actually see what the stored procedure did. So I've got right from user action all the way through, and that was a single click. Is that something you guys might find useful? You're welcome to clap, cheer, whistle. Okay, so the other thing that you're likely to see is, if from a support perspective, you always want to know what windows are open, what people have been doing. So if you've ever had to capture, tell me all of the windows you've got open, and I want the screenshots of all of these. So you can say, well, the old way would be to go into each window and capture a screenshot with I'm trying to think what they call it now, snipping tool. Thank you. And put it, probably copy it into Word or something. Or if you've got Power Tools, you can just come here and say capture screenshots. You can decide which window. So I can say, oh, I don't need the login control window, and I can just say email them. So that will now be emailed, and it should come up in a second. Where are you? There we go. Okay, so that's now got all of the screenshots attached. It also has, because I've asked it to, a text file which contains a summary, which I'll show you in 1 second. It also includes the dynamics.set, so I can see the launch file that was used. I have got a copy of the dex.ini, both the system level dex.ini and the user level dex.ini. Then I've got all of the screenshots for that. Okay, so if I show you the system summary. Okay, so this is included with, and it gives me all the information. So I can, first of all, I can see what version of Power Tools I'm running. I've got the registration information. I can see then which modules are actually registered. I can come down and see who I was logged in as. I can see details of the machine name, the operating system, where my temporary folder is, environment variables, the SQL Server version, the ODBC version, the details about the databases I'm currently logged into, so the system and 2 database. If you can ask it to give you information about every database, but that does make the report longer and take more time. I've got product information, so this tells me the runtime engine, it tells me a number of settings, it tells me what customizations I have installed as per customization maintenance, and what DLLs I've got installed, so those are the Visual Studio tools. It's also showing me what's happening in my background queue, so I can see what background processes are sitting there. Then it's giving me the information of what products are installed, so I can see each product installed, what its version is, what its application, forms and reports dictionaries, where they're stored, whether it actually found them. Okay, so they might not be there. Also tells me whether or not the DLLs, the DAGD DLLs for the so technical term, dictionary assembly generator. This is how Visual Studio tools can talk to through the DLL to Dexterity. So it tells me whether it can find the DLLs and whether it's got one for modified forms and whether it's got the one for metadata, which is for service-based architecture. It tells me all of this information. So, if the customer says, hey, I installed this service pack, you can actually say, maybe not. You can look at the versions. And then finally, when we get to the bottom, it's got a list of what was attached. So it's telling me which windows were attached, what dictionary they came from, what's their names. And if we scroll to the right, it will even tell us whether they are alternate or original windows, so I know where they come from. So is that useful with a single click? All right, so I have to... as I said, I'm going to be moving through this very quickly. Okay, so the next one I'm going to show you is, I'm going to log in again. I'm just going to close down some of this stuff. I'm going to log in again, but one of the big issues that people see, and you might have already noticed it a little bit, is how do I know what company I'm logged into? Has anybody ever, when they've got a multi-company system, spent a day entering transactions into the wrong company? Yeah, okay. So you know the nightmare that causes. So I'm going to launch a second GP session. And this should demonstrate a few of the things that I wanted to show you. Access. All right. So first of all, this window here has Power Tools has widened it, so when I have a long company name, I can see the entire company name. It's also added, because I asked it to, the database name at the beginning, which I can add at the beginning or the end. I can also reorder the companies in that list, so that you can move your test companies to the bottom without having to put Z in front of them. Yeah. So Okay, so PowerTools is warning me that my password on this user is about to expire. So I've set it out quite a few days so that it makes it easier for me to actually demo this, but you normally wouldn't warn them 39 days ahead. But I'm getting a warning that my passwords expire. If you've ever had a password expire mid-session, you'll know the problems that that causes. It can disconnect you from your session, and then your data can be left in an unknown state. So I'm not going to change it now. You'll also notice the green. I'm logging into a test company. I have asked PowerTools to highlight this as a test company. Also, yes, it's now, when you log in, it actually logs you in, but there's still a lot of background processing happening. So that dialog was actually saying you can't do anything until the background processing is finished and login is truly completed. So I'm now getting the dialog. Now this is a standard Dynamics dialog, but PowerTools makes it very easy to enable this dialog and disable it if you want to. And it's just telling me I'm logging into a test company. So now that I'm in this company, I'm going to go and we'll go to transaction sales transaction entry. I'll explain that window later. All right, so I'm in sales transaction entry. You can, obvious I'm in my test company. The lime green one's really good. I've got another one that's called hot pink, and it's like Barbie pink in your face. You like that one? And yeah, you can't miss it that you're in a test company. So if I'm an end user, I'm going to move from knowing. Oh, actually, the other thing about knowing what company I'm in, across the top, it puts the user ID and company name. You can actually choose whether you want IDs or names, and you can decide on what you want. By it being at the beginning, if I come down to the bottom here, I can see which sessions belong to what. So now, Microsoft put it at the end, but I had it a bit at the beginning already, and it basically allows you to choose what you're doing. So, okay, so I'm going to go to additional, I'm going to say create return. And two things have happened. So I've been given a security privileges error. The error, PowerTools is adding onto the error message exactly what window caused that problem. Because sometimes when you get an error message, it's not the window that you try to open, it might be another window that's trying to open at the same time. And you get a message, but you cite the security to the window's there, and you don't know what it is. So I'm getting more information. The other thing that's happening is I've asked PowerTools to automatically open the security profiler window just before the error occurs. That's a setting, and so it pops open the security profiler. This window, while it's open, every security event that happens is tracked, and you can see whether it's successful or not. So you can see I've been denied to the create return window in field service. There's a bit more information, technical information on the side here, including the user. So I've educated my users that whenever they get this message, that they can export this to a file or send it to me as an email. So I didn't realize the path had changed. Let me just fix the path. So I'm just going to put that back into data. Okay. So it's exported that log. So now David as administrator, so I'm going to put on my SA hat. And I'm going to come into PowerTools, I'm going to open up the security profiler. Okay, profiler. And I'm going to import the log that just got saved. I've been doing other things and my paths got messed up, so I'm just going to go back to where it is. There's the profile log. So I can now see this exact same error that the user had, but it's now on my system. And I can say, okay, well, show me a bit more information. So I'm going to say, show me security information, and now I can see exactly what's going on. So it's showing me this window's in field service, create return, and it says that there's no access granted here. So on the side here, I can see David doesn't have access. So how do I give him access? Well, if I look at the system level, I can make him a power user. Not going to happen. I can make him a super user. That's a GP PowerTools thing. Power user bypasses security. GP PowerTools creates a super user so that you can see all user information. I'm sorry, it's basically like power user, but it doesn't bypass security. Not going to give him that either. The task RTO1 here, that's going to give him access, and he can get it either as an RT agent or an RT manager. So I'm just going to say I'm going to make him an agent. I come into security, pop down to RT Agent, turn it on, save it. Okay, come back here. If I hit redisplay, you'll see he now has access in the test company. I can say to David, okay, try again. He can come back here, oops, and say create return, and now it works. How easy is that? Okay. So I'm just going to take the security away, because what happens is if I demo this again sometime, it doesn't work. So I'm taking that away again. Now, you know how you get the message that says changes don't take effect until after they log in? Most of the time that's actually not true. Changes do take effect. The changes that might not take effect are if something's been changed that will change the menu navigation. So if you ever do that, while the security profile is open, I can actually say refresh navigation, and I don't have to log back out again and log back in. I can just refresh the navigation and it will redo the menus with that change applied. Okay. So, the other thing that we can do is, have you ever had two users with the same tasks and roles? I'm just going to refresh that and you'll see he's no longer access. Same tasks and role, but you need to take access away from one piece from one user. So the only way to do that in standard GP is to duplicate all the tasks and roles involved and give that person access to the duplicate. And now you've got duplicate tasks and roles, and you've got lots of different duplicates for doing lots of different things, and you have no idea what each duplicate is for. There's no easy way to compare it back to the original. And what was going to be a nice security model with tasks and roles is now a nightmare because I've got lots of junk tasks and roles. So the problem is that GP gives you the grant layer, but unlike SQL and Windows, there's no deny layer. So that's where Power Tools comes in. So I can just open up the enhanced security, and I can say, I can navigate this via menus or by area pages or through the dictionary. I'm just going to go in through area pages, and we'll go into sales, cards, and you'll see there's customer maintenance there. And okay, I couldn't have cleaned this up before, so let me just undo these. Okay, so it tells me here that David has access, and taking it away is just a matter of single click. So I can come in here. David no longer has access to the customer maintenance. He's also really bad at doing returns, so I'm going to just come down here to security objects and document access, sales, and return, and take it away from him on returns as well. So he no longer has access to those. The other thing that the enhanced security window can do is hide things off the menus. So there are some things on the menus that you cannot get rid of. The one that I know that annoys a lot of people is the setup checklist. You can get rid of the things that the setup checklist will take you to, but you can't get rid of the setup checklist from the menu because it's exempt from security. So with something that's exempt from security, I can say, well, I don't want to see it anymore, and just hide it when I log in as these users. So now you can see I've got this tree. I can get to all the resources. How do I know what has been hidden or denied? I can pop up the security denied window, and I can say show me all users, all companies, and you'll see what resources have been denied. And so my demo works better next time. I'm going to mark those and delete them. That will bring all the security back. And I'm also going to go into security hidden and say what menus have been hidden. Now, and we'll do that for all users, all companies. So they're the entries, mark all, delete. Okay, so now the thing is, when I actually go and see what's, when I've marked something, it'll show in the system, in the security information, it will say, you had access by tasks and roles, but it will say it's been denied by deny-based security. So can you see that working for you? The idea is you set your big level stuff by granting, and then you fine-tune it by denying. All right. So the next thing I wanted to show you was, actually it's not on here, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. If I pop into show resources and I click on a task, I can see all the resources that make up a task. I click on a role, it will show me all the resources that take up a role. If I click on a user, it's going to show me everything that that user has. You can then export that and your auditors are happy. Okay, so you can just export it as tab delimited. All right, I'm going to move on because I am very short on time. So The next thing I want to show you is user license management. So if you've got basically, you've got a limited number of resources with user license management, so you can turn on user activity tracking, and I can actually see, and this gives me, at the moment, I'm getting statistics of all the user sessions that I've had logging in and logging out. It is possible to capture detailed information, so not just, hey, this user logged in and out so many times, but actually every single login and log out and what machine they came from. When it tracks some of this, it will also show you, not just like for SA, it will actually show you the Windows user ID, so you can tell who was logging in as SA. So the other thing it can do, and my graph is not brilliant because I'm just a couple of users, but I can see the maximum number of users logged in on any day, and if I click on that day, it will show me who was logged in at that time. So if you want to track your licenses, this is how you do it. You can see whether you've got enough licenses. But if I'm starting to have problems with licenses, how do I solve that? Well, the first thing that you can do is use automatic logout. So if I come to the license tab, you'll see the options here. I can turn on automatic logout. I've got multiple levels of time that I can set. I can get more aggressive with logging out when my license count gets below a certain level. I can select business hours, so I can say don't log them out during business hours. It also has some options at the bottom here, so it's got an automatic saving capability that if a window is left open and all the required fields are filled in, it will actually save it automatically before it tries to log out. It will close inquiry windows, and the last thing it can do if you want it to is if it fails to log out, it can still remove the activity record so the license is freed up. If that user comes back to their machine, they'll see that it's tried to log out because it will say, you know, do you want to save, discard, cancel, or whatever dialog stopped at logging out. They can continue whatever they were doing, but if they then try to move to another window, they'll get a message that you've been logged out of GP, and it kicks them out, and they have to log back in. So the other thing then is, how do I control how many licenses each user is using? So I don't know your systems too well, but people with more than one company, if you have a situation where you log in and a user starts logging into multiple companies, they can use up multiple licenses, and all of a sudden other users can't log in. So we've got login limits here where we can actually specify how many licenses each user is allowed to use, and you can put just 1, 2, whatever you want. You can set that at the system level. I can also set overrides at the user level, and in fact one of the things I can do is I can reserve a license. So as me as administrator, or maybe the CEO or CFO, you can reserve a license. It'll take one license out of your pool and ensure that there's always a license available for that user to log in. Settings can also be controlled at the company level, so you can say how many licenses each company is allowed if you've got more than one company. We had a situation where the system was a large company and a small company, and the large company took all the licenses, the small company could never actually log in. So something like login limits would have solved that problem. So the next thing I wanted to show you is a little bit of troubleshooting. So if I need to solve some sort of problem, what will happen is, you know, the support guys will say to you, hey, I need you to take other products, ISV products, out of the equation. And that normally means going and editing your dynamics.set, and if that's on a terminal server, that's going to affect everybody else. So what I can do is I can pop into dictionary control, and I can just start turning on and off products in here. And I can turn off their triggers, and I can turn off their alternate or modified windows. I also have the option, this does require a reboot, a relaunch of GP. I can disable VBA, and I can disable Visual Studio Tools. I can just do that for one session, and it turns it back on for whoever logs in next. So in here, I also have the option when it says disabled, I can actually say disabled after login, which means it will remember that setting after login. And if I do that, I do have the ability to specify which users it's for, and I can do that by user, company, class, and the various security objects as well. So this little button with the user button, that is actually throughout Power Tools, particularly a lot of the administrator features. You can actually fine-tune exactly who things are affected by, and you can either include or exclude the users you've selected. So, all right, does that sound useful? All right, so Power Tools was, or GP Power Tools, coming from Support Debugging Tool, was originally created for debugging problems. So I'm going to actually activate, I'll pop this one open, and I'm going to turn on automatic start logging triggers, so you can see the logging is now enabled, and I've got a couple of, oops, not that one, this one, I've got a couple of triggers running, and the problem that I have is the, okay, so I'm going to open up resource information. Just, you need to see this because this is very cool. Okay, so problem I have is that the hold on my customers is somehow getting set. I don't know how it's happening. So if I come into a customer and I want to go, you know, this field hold, where is that? What is it? What is it? So if I click on it, I'm going to actually move this guy aside and pop open. Actually, we'll use the Raise All Windows feature, which is another Power Tools feature. As I tab through, let's just scroll that guy aside a little. Okay, as I tab through this window, if you, it was already open, hold on, let me just open it again. There is an order thing, if you've got to have the window, there we go, that's better. The resource information needs to be open first for the tabbing through thing to work. So now that that has happened, we'll put you guys over there. I come and bring up a record. As I move around, can you see on the right, bottom right, it's telling me exactly what field I'm on? Okay, so we can take that one step further as well. I can say, if I want to, use the Finder, which I can open up with the Resource Finder, or if I do it from here, it will look at whatever the current field is. This will now tell me not just what window I'm on, but it will tell me where the data is. And I can preview the data from here as well. So it tells me exactly where it is. This window has got a whole load of modes. There's a find by data where I can search the entire database for a piece of data, and it will find it and show me where it is. Okay. One thing that you'll see just now, when I click on this window again, watch it move. Okay, that's Power Tools doing that, making sure that none of the windows can open off the screen. So what we're interested in with this field getting selected, I've got triggers running, and it's actually picked up, hey, that window's been changed on the screen, and I can get a message or some other actions displayed. Also now, it's going to happen fairly quickly, but when I hit save, I'm going to get, it's doing it, messages. So this, here we go, I think it's done it now, the second page. So it is capturing, I'm just waiting for the second window to appear. There it is. Okay, so I asked it to capture logs, and I also asked it to capture screenshots. So here's all the screenshots, and I've got this showing, but you can just make it email automatically, so you don't actually see it. But this is the screenshot, just like we saw before, of all the open windows when that happened. And this here is the logs leading up to the change. You can see there was an update, it changed from 0 to 1, and I've captured all of that. I can tell you exactly who did it, and I've got the scripts to show you exactly which bit of code made that change. Okay, so that allows me to debug problems and find them very quickly. So just so my demo works. Is that going to be useful? All right, so I'm just going to unregister all for now. Okay, so there is a way of, I don't have time to show you, but there is a way of making the logs, rather than running all the time, I can make the logs open and close, or start and stop when I open a particular window, which actually means that you don't have to have the logging running all the time. All right, so do you ever have scripts that you would run on a regular basis? You know, something's gone wrong, please run this script to fix the problem. Okay. You have to call on a DBA or partner to do that for you. All right, so what I'm going to show you here, and I'm just going to clear that and bring up the customer's demo. So this here is some of the development capabilities of Power Tools. So here I've got a project. In it I have a script. This script is just a select statement. However, I can swap between dexterity names for fields, and if I put them in the curly braces, or I can just use physical names. So you can see here it's talking about the RM customer master and RM customer name. So I don't have to use the SQL names because as a dexterity developer I don't know them. So I can put in whatever I like. When I run this, It's linked to a parameter list which is going to ask me some questions, so you can ask whatever questions you want off the user. So when I run this and I hit execute, which is hiding down here, you'll see I get asked for those parameters, and then they get put into the script, and here's my result set. So this doesn't need to be a select statement. This can be any SQL commands that you want to issue that will update, insert, whatever you need to do to fix your problem, it can be done. So now, this script, if I'm, as an administrator, this is cool for me, but if I was actually asking my users to run this, you don't want to let them get into a script. In fact, they don't have the rights to be in here anyway. But what you can do is you can say, I want to publish the script. And if you've published the script, it's available from the executor window. They can no longer see the script, they can't edit to the script, but they can execute it, be asked whatever parameters you want, and it will run. The other thing that you can do is, rather than them having to go to the executor windows, which are just on here, you can actually say, well, I want to attach this to another window using menus. So I'm just going to come in, I'm going to open up this form. The triggers are currently not running. I'll start the triggers, open up the window, and if I come in here, you'll see I have additional, and I can say execute it, and I can ask the question. And again, there's my result set. And now with the result sets, you can go and ask it to do something. So I've got here just an example. I can double click and it will open up that customer. So the other thing that I've done is I can say, well, rather than asking with a dialogue, I can just say, well, this is the one I've got selected. Just do it for the one I've got selected. And you can see now that's done at Fairden Park. So does that sound like it might be useful? Self-service scripts. If you actually export that, it's a tab, comma, delimited, or an HTML table. Okay, so that's the sort of the scripting capabilities. I'm going to show you just a couple more bits. Okay, so this one is the item URL demo. I'm just going to run this, yes. And I'm going to say, go to the modified version of the window. So that asking me which version of a window I want, that's GP Power Tools. If you've got like WhenSoft or Project and you want to sometimes run original Windows, sometimes run the other one, don't have to have two logins. At runtime, I can just be asked which one I want to open, and it will open the version I ask for. So on this window, you'll see I've got this web URL link here. Power Tools, this is created with Modifier, and Power Tools scripts are making this work. So I'm using this to replace the ability for a VBA. I can basically do anything I want. I've got scripts I can run on any dictionary. I can use SQL code, I can use Dexterity code, I can use C# and VB.NET code as well. No separate development environment required. It's all sitting inside Power Tools. Any changes I make, there's no deployment. No having to go and visit machines to install things. It is just deployed because it's saved in SQL, it's just there. No deployment, no upgrades. When you come to the new version, you install it, it's just there. So now I'm going to show you one other demo just because it's a cool thing that I recently did. Clear this. So from accounting type people, they love working with Excel, but getting it into, okay, hold on, I need that. And I need the Excel bit that goes with this. There it is. Okay, so I can put my data in Excel, and there we go, put that onto my clipboard. I can come in here and I can say, open up transaction entry. I'm just going to put in my header information, click, tab through, come in here and I say, okay, copy lines. And they're the lines. That's Power Tools doing that. Okay, if I want to take it one step further, I can actually give it a little bit more complex table. This one has all header information in it as well, and I can say paste entire transactions in. And it's just generated 2 transactions. That is just simple code. You can take download the sample, alter it for any window that you want. So it's just dead easy. Okay. How are we going for time? Okay, I'm going to move on to database validation. This is going to have to be very quick. Okay, I'm being told here that I don't have an application loaded. It was actually an application that I used in the training recently that isn't loaded. So the idea with database validation is you do want all dictionaries loaded. So at the moment you'll see I've got lots of ticks. I'm just going to very quickly run a script that is going to say mess up my system. It's the sort of script that you do not want to run on a customer's live system because it will completely mess up things. But it is perfect because it just allows me to see and show you all of the things that can go wrong. So there's my SQL. All right, I'm going to run this script and bleh, it's done. So if I now say, show me this again and redisplay, you'll see I've got a whole load of errors. Now I'm going to run through this very quickly. The choices to fix things are only there if there is a problem. So first of all, DynSA is missing. It doesn't have a DynSA user. So I'm going to create a DynSA user. I'm going to give them a password. DynSA is not the owner of the databases. I'm going to fix that. I have a missing database where I've got a database in GP, but it's not in SQL. I'm going to get rid of that. That's like Clear Companies, but much better. The DynSA user doesn't exist at GP level. I'll create that, and I'll create the company access records for it. I have some users in GP that don't exist in SQL. These test users, I don't want them anymore. They can go. This lesson user 1 I want to keep, but I'm going to let it. I should have dropped my resolution. The 150% thing. Oh, that's the other thing. GP Power Tools fixes the scaling issues. And in fact, version 29 fixes it on as soon as you install. It'll fix it. Does it while it has elevator permissions. So it's going to create passwords for me. The bit that I can't get to is I can choose to say that the password needs to be changed on next login. It's just down there. Hold on. Oh, I don't have time to show it to you right now. So, but basically, you know, the password policies. So change password, next login, password expires. That stuff it's just off the bottom of the screen. I'm going to hit process. It's going to fix everything. All my ticks are going to come back. Okay, I don't know if you heard the noise just then. That was it sending the email. I've asked it to send emails to the users when I've changed the password, so it'll send them an email, and that's it arriving. And the email will say, this is what your new password is. But I can also show the password on a report, so there it is on the screen. Did you notice that my screen is not maximized, the window output? That is Power Tools allowing it to remember the state and position of your screen output. So if you don't like it going maximized all the time, you can fix that. All right, so I come in to fix utilities, and this will clean up all of the junk records in utilities. Done. Okay, fix framework. I can identify problems with the account framework, and I can fix them. I don't have time to show you all of that. And then the last thing I can do is I can hit process, which will scan all of the tables in the dictionary, scan all of the tables in SQL, find all the ones that exist in both. Then I can click validate, and it will make sure all the formats between those tables actually exist. So all of the columns are correct. And as long as they are correct, or if they're not correct, it can fix them. So there is a side effect of database validation. You can actually use it to change your account framework. It's not publicized, but that is actually something it can do. So I'm just going to come in here. It also can show me products, like I had SmartView installed, so I've got a whole load of tables here that are sitting here but don't belong to a product. I can clean them up as well. Okay, so basically that's a very, very quick overview. I'm going to come back to the slide deck because I'm looking at my time and I'm right at the end of it. So there is so much more I could have shown you. I did a training before the conference. We spent an entire day and there was still not stuff I hadn't shown them. Okay, so if you want more information, go to the Power Tools portal. My blog, I'm easy to find. My details, you can email me. I'm on Twitter as well. So just so that I'm allowed to come back, your input is really important. So if you're able to give me evals and say nice things, that's great. Please do not put low numbers and not say why. If you've got a problem with me, I want to know. Now, for those of you who remained, please, before you go, come and grab some chocolate. I can't take these home. So, yeah, those of you who ran away, Kerry, mentioning, yeah, pass the bag around. Ooh, don't stand in front of the speaker. Thank you.